Hello, dear mystery lovers, and welcome to Hercule Hub. I'm your host, Ronan Blackwell, here to guide you through another deliciously intricate tale featuring the one and only Hercule Poirot. Tonight, we're unraveling a brand new mystery killer on the Crystal Bridge. So grab a cup of tea, settle into your coziest armchair, and let's step into the fog-laden world of 1920s London. Oh, and before we begin, pop into the comments and tell me where you're listening from. I'd love to know. Now let's dim the lights and dive into Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The Crystal Star's Maiden Voyage. The year is 1927 and London is a city of contrasts. Smoky pubs nestle against grand theaters and the Thames reflects both the grit of industry and the sparkle of wealth. Tonight all eyes are on a marvel of modern engineering. The Crystal Bridge, a glass-domed railway bridge spanning the Thames, its translucent canopy a beacon of progress. Designed by the formidable industrialist Sir Reginald Hawthorne, the bridge is both a functional triumph and a spectacle, its glass panels shimmering under moonlight like a string of diamonds. The bridge carries a private luxury train, the Crystal Star, and tonight marks its inaugural journey, a dazzling event reserved for Sir Reginald's elite circle. Hercule Poirot, the meticulous Belgian detective with a penchant for order, has been invited to this exclusive affair. His mustache, waxed to perfection, twitches slightly as he steps onto the platform at Victoria Station, his sharp eyes scanning the crowd. At his side is his loyal friend, Captain Arthur Hastings, whose boyish enthusiasm for the occasion contrasts with Poirot's measured calm. "Mon ami," Poirot murmurs, adjusting his immaculate gloves. "This bridge, it is a masterpiece, oui, but masterpieces often conceal the most untidy secrets." Hastings, too dazzled by the train's gleaming exterior, chuckles and dismisses the remark. The Crystal Star is a vision of opulence, mahogany-paneled cars, crystal chandeliers, and plush velvet seats. The dining car, where tonight's festivities will unfold, boasts a long table set with silver and fine china. The guest list is small but meticulously curated, each member a player in Sir Reginald's world of power and ambition. Poirot, ever the observer, notes their names and faces as they board, his little gray cells already humming with curiosity. First is Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, 45, Sir Reginald's wife and a former actress whose beauty still commands attention. Her emerald gown catches the light, but her smile is brittle, her eyes darting to the other guests with a hint of calculation. She carries herself with the grace of the stage, yet Poirot detects a restlessness, as if she's playing a role she no longer enjoys. Next is Edward Hawthorne, 28, Sir Reginald's only son and heir. Tall and handsome, with his father's sharp jaw but none of his confidence, Edward fidgets with his cufflinks. His attempts at charm feel forced, and his glances at his father are laced with resentment. Poirot notes the young man's tailored suit slightly too large, as if he's trying to fill shoes that don't yet fit. Dr. Clara Mortimer, 38, a chemist of rare brilliance, follows. Her severe black dress and tightly pinned hair suggest a woman who values precision over vanity. As Sir Reginald's business partner, she helped develop the chemical sealants that make the Crystal Bridge's glass impervious to strain. Yet her expression is guarded, her lips pressed into a thin line as she clutches a small leather notebook. Poirot wonders what secrets those pages hold. Mr. Victor Langston, 50, an American investor with a booming laugh and a calculating gaze, strides aboard with the confidence of a man accustomed to winning. His pinstriped suit and gold watch scream wealth, but his eyes linger on Sir Reginald with a mix of admiration and envy. Langston's investment in the bridge project is substantial, and Poirot senses he's a man who guards his stakes fiercely. Finally, Miss Evelyn Grey, 25, Sir Reginald's private secretary, slips aboard almost unnoticed. Her plain gray dress and quiet demeanor make her easy to overlook, but Poirot's keen eye catches the way her fingers tighten around a small notebook, identical to Dr. Mortimer's. Her pale face betrays no emotion, yet her quick glances at the other guests suggest a mind that misses nothing. Sir Reginald, himself 60, is the last aboard. A bear of a man with a commanding presence, he greets his guests with a booming voice and a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. His tailored coat and silver cane mark him as a king of industry. But his brusque manner hints at a man who brooks no opposition. "Welcome to the future," he declares, gesturing to the bridge's glass dome, visible through the train's windows. The crystal bridge defies gravity, time, and, dare I say, death itself. The guests laugh politely, but Poirot's mustache twitches. Such boasts, he knows, often tempt fate. As the crystal star pulls away from Victoria Station, the city's lights fade, and the train approaches the crystal bridge. The glass dome arches overhead, offering a breathtaking view of the Thames below, its dark waters glinting under the moon. The guests gather in the dining car, where champagne flows and a string quartet plays softly. Yet the atmosphere is far from festive. Poirot, sipping his tisane, a beverage that draws curious glances from Langston, observes the undercurrents of tension. Lady Beatrice leans close to Victor Langston, her laughter a touch too bright as she compliments his watch. Langston responds with a grin, but his eyes flick to Sir Reginald, who's deep in conversation with Dr. Mortimer. The chemist's voice is low, her words clipped, as if she's arguing a point she knows she won't win. Edward, meanwhile, sits apart, nursing a whiskey and glaring at his father. Miss Grey, stationed near the door, scribbles in her notebook, her pen moving with a speed that belies her calm exterior. Poirot, seated at the end of the table, lets his gaze drift over the group. "Mon ami," he whispers to Hastings, "observe the faces. Each one tells a story, and not all are happy ones." Hastings, ever practical, suggests it's merely the pressure of the occasion. But Poirot shakes his head. "Non, Hastings. There is something here. Something that does not fit." The train enters the crystal bridge, and the dining car falls silent as the guests marvel at the view. The glass dome, illuminated by soft electric lights, creates an ethereal glow, as if the train is floating above the river. Sir Reginald rises, tapping his glass for attention. "To the crystal bridge," he toasts, "and to those who dare to dream beyond the ordinary." The guests raise their glasses, but Poirot notes the reluctance in their movements. Edward's grimace, Dr. Mortimer's clenched jaw, Miss Grey's fleeting frown. As the meal begins, Poirot engages each guest in turn, his questions polite but probing. Lady Beatrice speaks of her theatrical past, hinting at sacrifices made for her marriage. Edward boasts of his plans to expand the family empire, though his voice lacks conviction. Dr. Mortimer discusses her chemical innovations, but her eyes darken when Sir Reginald's name arises. Langston regales the table with tales of American industry, yet his joviality feels rehearsed. Miss Grey, when pressed, offers only vague answers about her role, her eyes darting to her notebook. The first course, oysters and caviar, gives way to the main, a perfectly roasted pheasant. The quartet shifts to a slower melody, and the train's gentle sway lulls the guests into a false sense of ease. But Poirot's senses are on edge. He notices a faint chemical odor, barely detectable, drifting from the direction of the engine car. He files it away, along with the smudge of red wax on the edge of Miss Grey's notebook and the scuff on Langston's otherwise polished shoes. As dessert is served, creme brulee with a caramelized crust, Sir Reginald announces he must inspect the engine room. "The bridge is my triumph," he says, "and I trust no one else to ensure its perfection." He strides out, leaving a ripple of unease in his wake. Poirot leans back, his fingers steepled, and murmurs to Hastings, The stage is set, mon ami. Now we wait for the curtain to rise. Narration break. What a cast of characters, don't you think? The glittering bridge, the lavish train, and a group of guests hiding their true selves. What secrets are simmering beneath the surface? Have you spotted any clues yet? Share your thoughts in the comments, my friends, and let's join Poirot as the mystery unfolds in Chapter 2. Stay with us. This is only the beginning. Chapter 2. The Crime Discovered, 2,000 words. Opening narration voice, warm British accent, conversational music, tense violin strings creep in, layered over a soft piano melody. Welcome back, my dear mystery enthusiasts, to Hercule Hub. I'm Ronan Blackwell, and oh, what a journey we're on tonight with Killer on the Crystal Bridge. If you're just joining us, we've boarded the dazzling Crystal Star in 1927 London, where Hercule Poirot is among a glittering yet secretive group of guests. The stage is set, the Crystal Bridge sparkles above the Thames, and something sinister is brewing. If you missed Chapter 1, pop back and catch up. It's essential for the clues. And as always, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop it in the comments below. Now settle in, for the curtain is about to rise on a most shocking act. Let's dive into Chapter 2. Chapter 2. The crime discovered. The Crystal Star glides smoothly across the Crystal Bridge, its glass dome casting a kaleidoscope of moonlight over the dining car. The guests, still seated around the mahogany table, savor the last of their crème brûlée, the caramelized crust crackling under their spoons. The string quartet's melody weaves through the air, but the atmosphere is anything but serene. Hercule Poirot, his tisane untouched, observes the group with his characteristic intensity, his mustache barely twitching as he notes the subtle tensions. Captain Arthur Hastings, ever the optimist, chats animatedly with Edward Hawthorne about the bridge's engineering, oblivious to the undercurrents Poirot has already sensed. Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, radiant in her emerald gown, leans toward Victor Langston, her laughter a touch too loud as she compliments his gold watch for the second time. Langston, the American investor, responds with a hearty chuckle, but his eyes flick nervously toward the empty chair where Sir Reginald Hawthorne sat before his abrupt departure to the engine room. Dr. Clara Mortimer, the chemist, pushes her dessert aside, her leather notebook open before her as she scribbles with a furrowed brow. Edward Hawthorne, Sir Reginald's son, grips his whiskey glass tightly, his earlier bravado replaced by a brooding silence. Miss Evelyn Gray, the secretary, sits at the table's edge, her own notebook closed but her fingers tracing its edges as if guarding a secret. Poirot, his sharp eyes missing nothing, leans toward Hastings. "Mon ami," he murmurs. In the air, it is heavy with anticipation. Something is not right. Hastings, mid-sentence about the bridge's load-bearing capacity, laughs lightly. "Oh, Poirot, it's just the excitement of the occasion. Sir Reginald's probably fussing over some bolt in the engine room." But Poirot's gaze lingers on the dining car's door, where Sir Reginald exited 10 minutes ago, his boast about the bridge's invincibility still echoing in the detective's mind. The clock on the dining car's wall strikes midnight, its chimes cutting through the quartet's melody. At that precise moment, a blood-curdling scream pierces the air, sharp and chilling from the direction of the engine car. The guests freeze, spoons clattering against plates. Lady Beatrice gasps, her hand flying to her pearl necklace. Edward's whiskey glass slips, splashing amber liquid across the tablecloth. Dr. Mortimer's pen skids across her notebook, leaving an ink blot. Langston's cigar, unlit despite his earlier claim of smoking, drops to the floor. Miss Gray's eyes widen, but she remains still, her hands clasped tightly. Hastings, ever the man of action, leaps to his feet. "Good Lord, what was that?" he exclaims, already striding toward the door. Poirot, with surprising agility for his compact frame, follows, his cane tapping lightly on the polished floor. The other guests hesitate, then trail behind, their faces a mix of fear and curiosity. The train, still gliding along the crystal bridge, feels suddenly claustrophobic, the glass dome above casting eerie shadows. The engine cars at the front of the train separated by a narrow corridor lined with brass fittings. As Poirot and Hastings reach the heavy oak door, they find it locked. Hastings pounds on it, calling out, "Sir Reginald, are you there?" No response. The engineer, a wiry man named Jenkins, appears from a side compartment, his face pale. "I heard the scream, sir," he stammers. "I was checking the gauges in the auxiliary room. The engine room's been locked since Sir Reginald went in." Poirot's eyes narrow. "Locked, you say? From the inside?" Jenkins nods, fumbling with a ring of keys. After a moment, he unlocks the door and it swings open with a creak. The sight within stops them cold. Sir Reginald Hawthorne lies sprawled on the engine room floor, his silver cane discarded beside him. A dagger, ornate and gleaming, protrudes from his chest, blood pooling beneath his tailored coat. His eyes, wide open, stare blankly at the glass dome above, where the Thames reflection dances mockingly. The room is small, dominated by the humming engine and a control panel of dials and levers. The air carries a faint chemical odor, sharp and unfamiliar. A shattered pocket watch lies near Sir Reginald's hand, its hands frozen at 11:45 p.m., 15 minutes before the scream. Poirot kneels beside the body, his gloved fingers hovering over the dagger. "Mon Dieu," he murmurs, "an impossible crime." The door, Jenkins confirms, was bolted from the inside, and the room has no other exits. The glass dome, seamless and reinforced, shows no signs of tampering. The ventilation shaft, high on the wall, is barely wide enough for a child. Yet Sir Reginald is dead, and the dagger tells its own story. Its handle is engraved with the initials R.H., Sir Reginald Hawthorne. The guests crowd at the doorway, their gasps filling the air. Lady Beatrice sways, clutching Langston's arm for support. "Reginald!" she cries, her voice breaking. Edward stares, his face ashen, muttering, "Father." Dr. Mortimer's hands tremble as she grips her notebook, her eyes darting to the control panel. Langston's booming voice falters as he demands, "Who could have done this?" Miss Grey, silent, steps back, her notebook pressed to her chest. Poirot rises, his expression calm but his eyes blazing with intensity. "Mesdames et messieurs," he says, his voice cutting through the chaos, "this is murder, and Hercule Poirot will uncover the truth." He turns to Jenkins. "You are certain no one entered or left this room?" Jenkins nods vigorously. "I swear, sir, I was in the auxiliary room and the corridor's been empty." Poirot examines the scene with meticulous care. The dagger, he notes, is not only Sir Reginald's but also razor-sharp, suggesting premeditation. The chemical odor lingers, strongest near the body. He spots a smudge of red wax on the doorframe, barely noticeable, and a tiny glass vial, empty but glinting under the engine's glow, tucked beneath a panel. The shattered watch, its glass cracked, seems out of place. Why would Sir Reginald, a man of precision, carry a broken timepiece? Hastings, pacing nervously, whispers, "Poirot, how could anyone get in here? It's a locked room." Poirot's mustache twitches. "The impossible, Hastings, is only impossible until it is explained. We must look beyond the obvious." He gestures to the guests. "No one leaves this train. We are all suspects." The word hangs in the air like a guillotine. Lady Beatrice protests, her voice shrill. "Suspects? That's absurd." Edward clenches his fists, his eyes flashing with anger. Dr. Mortimer's lips tighten and Langston laughs nervously, retrieving his dropped cigar. Miss Grey says nothing, but her gaze meets Poirot's for a fleeting moment, unreadable. Poirot instructs Jenkins to secure the engine room and orders the guests back to the dining car. As they file out, he lingers, his eyes scanning every inch of the scene. The chemical odor, the red wax, the stopped watch, all pieces of a puzzle that does not yet fit. He notices a faint scuff mark on the floor near the ventilation shaft, and a single thread of gray fabric caught on a bolt. Curieux, he murmurs, filing each detail in his mind. Back in the dining car, the guests sit in stunned silence, the quartet long since stopped. Poirot stands at the head of the table, his presence commanding. "We are trapped on this bridge," he says, "until the truth is revealed, and reveal it I shall." Hastings, still shaken, whispers, "But Poirot, the scream was at midnight and the watch says 11:45. Could it be wrong?" Poirot's eyes gleam. "The watch, mon ami, may tell us more than the time." Chapter 3. Investigation begins. The dining car of the Crystal Star is a study in contrasts. The crystal chandeliers still gleam, but the air is thick with fear and suspicion. The guests gathered around the mahogany table sit in uneasy silence, their eyes darting between each other and the door to the corridor where Sir Reginald Hawthorne lies dead. The train halted midway across the Crystal Bridge due to a safety protocol triggered by the engineer. Jenkins hums faintly beneath their feet. Above, the glass dome reflects the moonlit Thames, its beauty now a mocking backdrop to murder. Hercule Poirot stands at the head of the table, his compact frame radiating authority. His mustache, impeccably waxed despite the chaos, twitches slightly as he surveys the group. Captain Arthur Hastings, seated nearby, fidgets with his napkin, his usual optimism replaced by a furrowed brow. "Poirot," he whispers, "this is madness. A locked room, a dagger, and not a soul in sight. How do we even begin?" Poirot's eyes gleam. "Mon ami, we begin with order. The truth, it hides in the details, and Hercule Poirot will find it." He addresses the guests, his voice calm but commanding. "Mesdames et messieurs, a crime has been committed, and we are all confined to this train until the authorities arrive. But fear not. Poirot is here, and the truth cannot hide from me. I will speak with each of you, and you will account for your actions." The guests shift uncomfortably, their faces a gallery of guilt, fear, and defiance. Poirot begins with Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, Sir Reginald's widow. She rises, her emerald gown slightly creased, and follows Poirot to a private corner of the dining car, near a window overlooking the Thames. Her hands tremble as she adjusts her pearl necklace, and Poirot notes a smudge of lipstick on her cheek as if applied in haste. "Madame," he begins, "where were you when the scream was heard at midnight?" Lady Beatrice's eyes flicker. "I was here, in the dining car with everyone else. I was speaking with Mr. Langston." Her voice wavers and Poirot presses gently. "And before that? Did you see Sir Reginald leave for the engine room?" She hesitates, then nods. "Yes, he left after his toast. I thought nothing of it. He was always fussing over that wretched bridge." Her bitterness is palpable, and Poirot files it away, noting her flushed cheeks and the faint scent of her perfume, which carries a hint of the same chemical odor from the engine room. Next is Edward Hawthorne, Sir Reginald's son. He slouches into the chair opposite Poirot, his whiskey-soaked breath sharp in the air. His tailored suit is rumpled and his eyes are red-rimmed, though whether from grief or anger Poirot cannot yet tell. "Monsieur Edward," Poirot says, "you were seen arguing with your father earlier this evening. What was the nature of this dispute?" Edward's jaw tightens. "It was nothing. He thought I was unfit to take over the business. Called me a disappointment in front of everyone." His voice cracks and he looks away. "I was with Captain Hastings when the scream came, playing cards in the lounge car. Ask him." Hastings, overhearing, nods reluctantly, but Poirot notes Edward's clenched fists and a torn train ticket protruding from his pocket, its edges frayed as if torn in agitation. Dr. Clara Mortimer, the chemist, is next. Her severe black dress and pinned-up hair give her an air of austerity, but her hands betray her nerves, clutching her leather notebook as if it were a lifeline. "Doctor," Poirot says, "you are a woman of science. Did you notice anything unusual before the scream?" Dr. Mortimer's eyes dart to her notebook, then back to Poirot. "I was in my compartment reviewing notes. I heard nothing until the scream." Her voice is steady, but her fingers tremble, and Poirot catches a glimpse of a chemical formula scrawled in her notebook, its symbols unfamiliar but suggestive of the odor in the engine room. "And this notebook," Poirot asks, "it contains your work?" She snaps it shut. "It's private, research for the bridge's sealants." Poirot nods, but his mind is already turning. Mr. Victor Langston, the American investor, strides forward with a forced grin, his pinstriped suit immaculate save for a scuff on his left shoe. "Mr. Poirot," he booms, "I'm an open book, ask away." Poirot smiles thinly. "Monsieur Langston, you claim to be smoking in the lounge car, yet your cigar was unlit when we found you. Curious, non?" Langston's grin falters. "Must have gone out. I was there the whole time, I swear." Poirot leans closer. "And your shoes, they are scuffed as if you've been somewhere untidy." Langston laughs nervously, brushing it off. "Clumsy of me, that's all. Tripped in the corridor." Poirot's eyes linger on the scuff, identical to one he saw near the engine room's ventilation shaft. Finally, Miss Evelyn Gray, the secretary, approaches. Her gray dress blends into the shadows, and her quiet demeanor makes her easy to overlook. Yet Poirot's sharp gaze misses nothing. Her notebook, identical to Dr. Mortimer's, is clutched tightly, and her pale fingers bear a faint ink stain. "Mademoiselle," Poirot says, "you were writing letters, you said. May I see them?" Miss Gray's eyes flicker with something, fear perhaps, or defiance. "They're personal," she says softly. "I was in my compartment until the scream." Poirot notes her steady voice, but the slight tremor in her hands and a single gray thread on her sleeve, matching the one found in the engine room. With interviews complete, Poirot returns to the engine room, now guarded by Jenkins, who fidgets nervously. The body of Sir Reginald remains untouched, the dagger still gleaming in his chest. Poirot kneels, his gloved hands tracing the scene. The chemical odor is stronger here, emanating from the empty glass vial he found earlier, now tucked safely in his pocket. The red wax smudge on the door frame catches his eye again, its texture suggesting a seal, perhaps from a letter or a package. The shattered pocket watch, stopped at 11:45 p.m., puzzles him. Why would Sir Reginald carry a broken watch, and why does the time not match the midnight scream? Poirot examines the ventilation shaft, its narrow opening barely a foot wide. "Impossible," Hastings mutters. "No one could fit through that." Poirot's mustache twitches. "Impossible, Hastings, is a word I do not accept." He notices the gray thread caught on a bolt and a faint scratch on the shaft's rim as if something or someone brushed against it. The scuff mark on the floor near the control panel aligns with Langston's shoe, but its angle suggests haste, not a casual trip. Back in the dining car, Poirot gathers the guests. "We have a puzzle," he declares. "A locked room, a dagger, and clues that whisper of deception. The chemical odor, the red wax, the broken watch, all point to a truth we have yet to uncover." Lady Beatrice gasps. "You can't think one of us did this." Edward snaps. "This is absurd." Dr. Mortimer's eyes narrow. Langston shifts uncomfortably, and Miss Gray remains silent, her notebook a shield. Poirot's mind races. The chemical odor suggests a sedative, possibly linked to Dr. Mortimer's expertise. The red wax could implicate Lady Beatrice, whose purse contains a sealing kit. The torn ticket in Edward's pocket hints at an escape plan. Langston's scuffed shoe and Miss Grey's thread raise questions about their movements. Yet the locked room remains the greatest enigma. How could the killer enter and escape undetected? As Poirot ponders, Jenkins bursts in, his face pale. "Sir, the train's controls, they're jammed. We're stuck on the bridge." The guests gasp and Poirot's eyes gleam. "A complication," he says softly, "but also a clue. The truth, it is closer than we think." Chapter 4. Clues and Red Herrings. The crystal star remains motionless on the crystal bridge, its glass dome casting eerie reflections of the Thames below. The dining car, once a haven of opulence, now feels like a gilded cage, the guests trapped in a tense tableau. Hercule Poirot stands near the window, his compact frame silhouetted against the moonlit river, his eyes sharp as he surveys the 5 suspects. Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, Edward Hawthorne, Dr. Clara Mortimer, Victor Langston, and Miss Evelyn Grey. Captain Arthur Hastings, pacing nearby, mutters, "Poirot, this is maddening. A locked room, a dagger, and now a jammed train. Where do we even start?" Poirot's mustache twitches. "Mon ami, we start where the truth hides, in the details. The clues, they speak if we listen." Poirot's initial interviews have revealed much, but the puzzle remains incomplete. The chemical odor, the red wax smudge, the shattered watch stopped at 11:45 p.m. The gray thread, the scuffed shoe, all swirl in his mind like pieces of a mosaic. The train's sudden halt, caused by jammed controls, adds a new layer of mystery. Poirot decides to dig deeper, beginning with the suspect's motives, for in motive he knows lies the heart of murder. He starts with Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, whose brittle smile and smudged lipstick hint at secrets. Poirot invites her to a private alcove in the dining car where the chandeliers cast flickering shadows. "Madame," he says, "your husband was a man of control, was he not? Over his business, his family, perhaps over you?" Lady Beatrice's eyes flash, but she recovers quickly. "Reginald was demanding," she admits. "He controlled my finances, my social engagements. I gave up the stage for him, you know." Her voice drips with resentment, and Poirot presses further. "And this resentment, it grew?" She hesitates, then laughs lightly. "I'm no saint, Mr. Poirot, but I didn't kill him." Poirot notes a red wax seal in her purse, matching the smudge on the engine room door frame, and a faint chemical scent clinging to her gloves. Could she have been in the engine room? Next, he turns to Edward Hawthorne, whose brooding demeanor and torn train ticket suggest a man on edge. In the lounge car, Edward slumps into a velvet chair, his whiskey glass empty. "Monsieur Edward," Poirot begins, "your father humiliated you publicly. This must have been painful." Edward's jaw clenches. "He called me a failure, said I'd ruin his legacy. I was set to inherit millions, but he threatened to cut me out unless I proved myself." His voice is raw, and Poirot notices the ticket in his pocket, dated for an earlier departure. "You planned to leave the train early, perhaps?" Edward flushes. "I thought about it, but I stayed." The ticket, torn as if in frustration, is a clue or a distraction. Dr. Clara Mortimer, the chemist, is next, her leather notebook never far from her side. Poirot meets her in her compartment where vials and papers are neatly arranged. "Doctor," he says, "the chemical odor in the engine room, it is familiar to you, we—" Dr. Mortimer's eyes narrow. "I work with chemicals daily, Mr. Poirot. The bridge's sealants required a sedative compound for testing. But I was in my compartment, not the engine room." Poirot points to the empty glass vial from the crime scene, now in his possession. It came from your laboratory?" Her face pales, but she recovers. "Anyone could have taken it. My lab isn't locked." Her defensiveness and the formula in her notebook matching the vial's residue make her a compelling suspect, or a convenient scapegoat. Mr. Victor Langston, the American investor, meets Poirot in the smoking lounge, his unlit cigar a curious contradiction. "Monsieur Langston," Poirot says, "your investment in the Crystal Bridge was substantial. Sir Reginald's threats to sabotage it, they endangered you none." Langston's laugh is forced. "Reginald was a tough negotiator, sure, but I didn't kill him. I was smoking here, ask anyone." Yet his scuffed shoe, matching the engine room's mark, tells another story. Poirot presses, "And this scuff, it came from where?" Langston shrugs. "Clumsy feet, that's all." But Poirot wonders if Langston's joviality masks a desperate motive, perhaps tied to financial ruin. Miss Evelyn Gray, the secretary, is last, her quiet presence almost ghostly. In the dining car, she sits with her notebook, her gray dress blending into the shadows. "Mademoiselle," Poirot says, "you are observant, yet you reveal little. What did you see before the scream?" Miss Gray's voice is soft. "I was writing letters, as I said. I saw nothing." Her notebook, identical to Dr. Mortimer's, is blank when Poirot glimpses it, and the gray thread on her sleeve matches the one in the engine room. "This thread," Poirot says, pointing, "it is curious, no?" She brushes it off. "From my dress, I suppose." Her calm is unnerving, and Poirot senses a hidden depth to her silence. With motives established, Poirot returns to the engine room, Jenkins standing guard. The dagger, engraved with R.H., remains in Sir Reginald's chest, its ornate design suggesting it was no ordinary weapon. The chemical odor, now identified as a sedative from Dr. Mortimer's lab, lingers near the vial. The red wax smudge, Poirot confirms, matches Lady Beatrice's sealing kit, but its placement seems too obvious, as if planted. The shattered watch, stopped at 11:45 p.m., contradicts the midnight scream. Could it have been tampered with? The gray thread and scuff mark near the ventilation shaft hint at movement, but the shaft's narrow size remains a puzzle. Poirot uncovers new clues, a false footprint in the engine room's dust, too perfect to be accidental, suggesting a staged scene. A torn scrap of paper hidden under the control panel bears a single word: traitor. Its handwriting is elegant, possibly Lady Beatrice's, but the ink matches Miss Gray's pen. In the corridor, Poirot finds a key, supposedly to the engine room, tucked in Langston's coat pocket. Yet Jenkins insists the door was bolted, not keyed. These clues muddy the waters, and Poirot's mind hums with possibilities. Hastings, trailing Poirot, suggests a secret passage. There must be a way in, Poirot. The bridge's design is complex, perhaps a hidden panel? Poirot shakes his head. "No, Hastings. The Crystal Bridge is a marvel of precision. A secret passage would defy its purpose." The answer lies elsewhere. He examines the control panel, noting a faint scratch near the jammed controls as if tampered with. The traitor note, he muses, could point to a personal betrayal or a deliberate misdirection. Back in the dining car, tensions rise. Edward accuses Dr. Mortimer of stealing her own chemicals to frame him. Lady Beatrice snaps at Langston, hinting at a private deal gone sour. Miss Gray remains silent, but her eyes follow Poirot's every move. The false footprint, the planted key, the torn note, all scream red herring, yet each suspect's motive is compelling. Lady Beatrice's resentment, Edward's inheritance, Dr. Mortimer's cheated patent, Langston's financial stake, Miss Gray's hidden past. Poirot gathers the guests. "Mesdames et messieurs," he says, "the clues multiply, but so do the deceptions. The truth is, like the Thames below us, deep and elusive. But Hercule Poirot will find it." His words hang in the air, and the guests exchange wary glances, each wondering who among them is the killer. Chapter 5. Complications and Twists. The crystal star remains frozen on the crystal bridge, its glass dome casting ghostly reflections of the moonlit Thames. The dining car, once a beacon of elegance, now feels like a pressure cooker. The five suspects, Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, Edward Hawthorne, Dr. Clara Mortimer, Victor Langston, and Miss Evelyn Grey, trapped in a web of suspicion. Hercule Poirot stands at the center, his compact frame a calm anchor amidst the storm, his mustache twitching as his sharp eyes scan the group. Captain Arthur Hastings, pacing near the window, mutters, "Poirot, this is getting out of hand. A murder, a jammed train, and now we're all suspects. How much worse can it get?" Poirot's gaze is steely. "Mon ami, the truth is like a diamond. It shines brightest under pressure. And pressure we shall have." The guests, seated around the mahogany table, are on edge. Lady Beatrice's emerald gown is creased, her hands twisting her pearl necklace. Edward's whiskey glass is empty again, his eyes darting accusingly. Dr. Mortimer clutches her leather notebook, her face pale. Langston's forced joviality has vanished, his scuffed shoe tapping nervously. Miss Grey, as always, is a shadow, her notebook closed, but her fingers tracing its edges. The air is thick with unspoken accusations, and Poirot knows the time has come to probe deeper into the clues and the lies. Suddenly, a loud grinding noise erupts from the engine car, followed by a violent lurch that sends champagne flutes crashing to the floor. The guests cry out, clinging to their chairs as the train shudders. Jenkins, the engineer, bursts into the dining car, his face ashen. "Mr. Poirot, the brakes, they've failed completely. Someone's tampered with the hydraulic controls." Poirot's eyes narrow. "Tampered, you say? This is no accident." He strides toward the engine room, Hastings and the guests trailing behind, their fear palpable under the glass dome's eerie glow. In the engine room, Sir Reginald's body remains untouched, the dagger still protruding from his chest. The chemical odor lingers, mingling with the metallic tang of machinery. Poirot examines the control panel, noting the scratch he saw earlier, now clearly deliberate. A tool mark, perhaps from a screwdriver. Jenkins, trembling, points to a severed hydraulic line, its edges clean. "This was no malfunction," he stammers. "Someone knew exactly what to do." Poirot's mustache twitches. "Indeed. And this, someone, they wish to trap us on this bridge." But why? As Jenkins works to stabilize the train, Poirot returns to the clues, his mind racing. The empty glass vial, the red wax smudge, the shattered watch stopped at 11:45 p.m., the gray thread, the scuffed shoe, the false footprint, the traitor note, the planted key, all point to a calculated crime. But the brake sabotage introduces a new twist. Was it meant to cover the murder, or is there a larger scheme at play? Poirot decides to search the train for additional evidence, starting with Sir Reginald's private compartment, accessible only by a key Jenkins provides. The compartment is a miniature office, lined with mahogany shelves and a locked safe. Poirot, with Hastings' help, opens the safe only to find it empty. Papers, Jenkins confirms, were stored there. Documents detailing the Crystal Bridge's design and financial agreements. "They were here this morning," Jenkins insists. "Sir Reginald checked them himself." Poirot's eyes gleam. "Stolen, then? But by whom and why?" A new clue emerges, a faint burn mark on the safe's interior, suggesting papers were destroyed, not stolen. The chemical odor is stronger here, hinting at an accelerant. Poirot's search yields another discovery. A coded letter tucked behind a shelf, written in a cipher of numbers and symbols. The handwriting is unfamiliar, but the paper matches Miss Grey's notebook. The letter references a Society of the Crescent, a name Poirot vaguely recalls from Sir Reginald's past, a secretive group tied to industrial espionage. Could this be Miss Grey's motive or another red herring? Hastings, reading over Poirot's shoulder, gasps. Poirot, this could be corporate sabotage. Maybe Sir Reginald crossed the wrong people. Poirot nods. Possible, mon ami. But the personal, it is always at the heart of murder. The suspects, summoned back to the dining car, grow restless. Edward, emboldened by whiskey, accuses Dr. Mortimer. You had access to those chemicals. You could have sabotaged the brakes to cover your tracks. Dr. Mortimer's eyes flash. Absurd! I'd never risk my work on this bridge. Lady Beatrice, her voice sharp, points at Langston. You were desperate to protect your investment, Victor. Did you tamper with the train to hide something? Langston's face reddens. That's rich, coming from you, Beatrice. Everyone knows you hated Reginald's control. Miss Grey remains silent, but her eyes flicker toward the coded letter in Poirot's hand. A second shock comes when Jenkins, returning from the engine room, collapses, his breathing shallow. Poirot kneels beside him, detecting the same chemical odor from the vial. Poisoned, Poirot declares, with the same sedative used in the murder. Jenkins, barely conscious, mumbles, saw someone near the controls, gray shadow, before passing out. Poirot orders him moved to a compartment, his mind racing. The sedative linked to Dr. Mortimer's lab was administered after the murder, suggesting a second act to cover the first. Poirot gathers the guests, his voice cutting through their bickering. Mesdames et messieurs, we have not one crime but two. A murder and now sabotage and poisoning. The killer is among us and they grow bold. He holds up the coded letter. This speaks of a society of the Crescent. Who knows of it? The guests exchange uneasy glances, but none admit knowledge. Miss Grey's fingers tighten on her notebook, and Poirot notes a faint ink stain on her thumb, matching the letter's ink. He revisits the clues with fresh eyes. The red wax, possibly Lady Beatrice's, seems too obvious, a plant to mislead. The torn ticket in Edward's pocket suggests flight, but his presence during the scream contradicts it. Langston's scuffed shoe aligns with the engine room's mark, but his alibi is shaky. Dr. Mortimer's sedative links to the vial and Jenkins' poisoning, yet her notebook's formula is incomplete. Miss Grey's gray thread and coded letter point to a deeper motive, perhaps tied to the missing documents. The false footprint and planted key scream misdirection, but the brake sabotage and burned safe suggest a larger conspiracy. Poirot's mind hums with a new theory. The murder was personal, but the sabotage and theft point to a broader scheme, perhaps to destroy the bridge's legacy. The traitor note, he muses, could refer to Sir Reginald's betrayal of a partner or rival. The watch, stopped at 11:45, may indicate a staged timeline. Did the killer manipulate the scream's timing? The ventilation shaft, too narrow for most, remains a puzzle, but Miss Grey's slight frame makes it plausible. As tensions boil, Lady Beatrice accuses Miss Grey. You're always scribbling in that notebook. What are you hiding? Miss Grey's voice is steady. Nothing, Lady Beatrice, just my work. Edward snarls at Langston. You're the one with dirty shoes. Where were you, really? Langston retorts. Watch your mouth, boy. Dr. Mortimer, clutching her notebook, snaps. This is madness. We're all losing focus. Poirot raises a hand, silencing them. Focus, mes amis, is precisely what we need. The truth is here in this room, and Hercule Poirot will find it. Chapter 6. The Revelation. The crystal star remains stranded on the crystal bridge, its glass dome casting a ghostly glow over the dining car where the 5 suspects, Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, Edward Hawthorne, Dr. Clara Mortimer, Victor Langston, and Miss Evelyn Grey, sit in a tense semicircle. The Thames glitters below, but the air inside is heavy with fear and accusation. Hercule Poirot stands at the head of the mahogany table, his compact frame radiating authority, his mustache perfectly still as his piercing eyes sweep over the group. Captain Arthur Hastings, seated to his right, grips the edge of the table, his face a mix of anticipation and dread. "Poirot," he whispers, "you've got that look. You know who did it, don't you?" Poirot's lips curve slightly. "Mon ami, the truth. It is like the river beneath us, clear when you look closely, and now we shall look." The guests are restless, their nerves frayed by the murder, the sabotaged brakes, and the poisoning of Jenkins, the engineer, who lies recovering in a compartment. Lady Beatrice's emerald gown is disheveled, her pearl necklace clutched like a lifeline. Edward's whiskey glass is long empty, his hands trembling with suppressed rage. Dr. Mortimer's leather notebook lies closed, her fingers tapping nervously. Langston's jovial mask has crumbled, his scuffed shoe still a silent accusation. Miss Grey, ever the shadow, sits with her notebook, her pale face unreadable but her eyes locked on Poirot. Poirot raises a hand, silencing the murmurs. "Mesdames et messieurs," he begins, his voice steady and deliberate. "We are gathered on this bridge, a marvel of human ingenuity, yet stained by a crime most foul. Sir Reginald Hawthorne was murdered in a locked engine room, stabbed with his own dagger. The train is sabotaged, Jenkins poisoned, and documents are missing, but fear not. Hercule Poirot has seen through the web of lies. The killer is among us, and now I shall name them." The guests gasp, leaning forward, their eyes wide with dread and curiosity. Poirot begins with the crime scene. The engine room was locked from the inside, the door bolted, the glass dome intact, the ventilation shaft too narrow for most. Yet Sir Reginald was dead, a dagger in his chest, a shattered watch at 11:45 p.m., a chemical odor in the air. How was this impossible crime committed? Let us examine the clues. He holds up the empty glass vial. This contained a sedative, stolen from Dr. Mortimer's laboratory, used to poison Jenkins after the murder. Why? To delay discovery of the sabotage. Dr. Mortimer stiffens, but Poirot continues. The red wax smudge on the door frame, it matches Lady Beatrice's sealing kit. But it is too perfect, no. A plant to mislead. Lady Beatrice gasps, her hand flying to her purse. The shattered watch, Poirot says, stopped at 11:45, yet the scream was at midnight. This suggests a staged timeline, but the watch was Sir Reginald's, broken in a struggle, not tampered with. The gray thread found in the ventilation shaft matches Miss Grey's dress. The scuff mark aligns with Mr. Langston's shoe. The traitor note in elegant script could belong to Lady Beatrice or Miss Grey. The torn ticket in Edward's pocket hints at flight, yet he remained. The false footprint and planted key are distractions meant to confuse. The guests shift, their faces a gallery of guilt and fear. Poirot turns to the motives, his voice rising. "Lady Beatrice, you resented Sir Reginald's control over your life, your finances, your freedom. Did you seek to escape him?" She shakes her head, tears welling. "Edward, your father's disdain and threats to disinherit you gave you reason to act. Did you strike to secure your future?" Edward's fists clench, but he remains silent. "Dr. Mortimer, Sir Reginald stole your chemical patent, cheating you of glory. Did you retaliate?" Dr. Mortimer's lips tighten, her notebook trembling in her hands. "Mr. Langston, your investment was at risk. Did you kill to protect your fortune?" Langston's face reddens, his cigar forgotten. "And Miss Grey, your quiet demeanor hides a past tied to Sir Reginald's misdeeds. Did vengeance drive you?" Miss Grey's eyes meet Poirot's, unreadable. Poirot paces, his cane tapping softly. The sabotage of the brakes and the poisoning of Jenkins suggest a larger plan, perhaps to destroy the bridge's legacy. The empty safe, its contents burned, and the coded letter mentioning the Society of the Crescent point to a conspiracy. But the murder, it is personal. Let us reconstruct the crime. He pauses, his gaze sweeping the room. The killer lured Sir Reginald to the engine room, claiming a mechanical issue. They entered together, the door bolted behind them. The killer, sleight of frame, stabbed Sir Reginald with his own dagger during a struggle, breaking his watch at 11:45. They then climbed through the ventilation shaft, narrow, but possible for one so small. The scream at midnight, a delayed distraction, perhaps a device or an accomplice. The sedative was used later on Jenkins to cover the sabotage, which was meant to trap us here, delaying discovery of the burned documents. The guests lean forward, breathless. Poirot's voice sharpens. The gray thread, the coded letter, the blank notebook. These point to one person. Miss Evelyn Gray, you are the killer. A stunned silence falls. Miss Gray's face remains calm, but her hands tighten on her notebook. The others gasp, Edward shouting, "Her? That mouse of a girl?" Poirot raises a hand. Mademoiselle Gray, you are the daughter of Jonathan Gray, a chemist ruined by Sir Reginald years ago, driven to ruin and death. The Society of the Crescent was a fiction, a code in your letter to mask your personal vendetta. You stole the sedative from Dr. Mortimer's lab, used it on Jenkins and planted the red wax to implicate Lady Beatrice. The traitor note was your flourish, a nod to your father's betrayal. Your slight frame allowed you to escape through the ventilation shaft, leaving the thread behind. Miss Gray's eyes flash, but she speaks softly. You have no proof, Mr. Poirot. Poirot holds up the coded letter. This, mademoiselle, is in your hand. The ink matches your pen. The thread matches your dress. And the burn marks in the safe? Traces of your father's chemical formula which you destroyed to hide your motive. The room erupts in chaos. Lady Beatrice sobs. Edward curses, Dr. Mortimer gasps, and Langston demands, how did she do it all? Poirot explains, Miss Gray, as secretary, had access to Sir Reginald's schedule and the engine room key. She lured him there, stabbed him, and escaped through the shaft. She sabotaged the brakes to trap the train, burned the documents to erase evidence of her father's work, and poisoned Jenkins to delay repairs. The false footprint and planted key were her attempts to muddy the waters. Miss Gray's composure cracks. He deserved it, she whispers, tears streaming. He destroyed my father, took everything. I had to make him pay. Poirot's expression softens, but his voice is firm. Vengeance, mademoiselle, is a poison of its own. You have confessed, and justice will follow. Hastings, stunned, whispers, Good Lord, Poirot, you've done it again. Poirot nods. The little gray cells, they do not fail. He turns to the guests. The truth is revealed, but the bridge holds more secrets. We must ensure justice is served. Chapter 7. Justice served. The dining car of the Crystal Star is a tableau of stunned silence, the glittering chandeliers casting a muted glow over the 5 suspects. Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, Edward Hawthorne, Dr. Clara Mortimer, Victor Langston, and Miss Evelyn Gray. The train remains stranded on the Crystal Bridge, its glass dome reflecting the Thames below, now tinged with the gray of dawn. Hercule Poirot stands at the head of the mahogany table, his compact frame radiating calm authority, his mustache still as he gazes at Miss Gray, whose tear-streaked face betrays the weight of her confession. Captain Arthur Hastings, seated nearby, shakes his head in disbelief. Poirot, he whispers, and to think it was her all along, a vendetta played out in such a cold, calculated way. Poirot's eyes soften, but his voice is firm. Mon ami, vengeance is a fire that consumes the heart, but now we must ensure justice restores order. Miss Gray sits, her gray dress blending into the shadows, her notebook abandoned on the table. The other guests, still reeling from Poirot's revelation, stare at her with a mix of shock and pity. Lady Beatrice, her emerald gown crumpled, clutches her pearl necklace, her eyes brimming with tears. Edward, his face pale, grips the arm of his chair, his earlier anger replaced by a hollow grief. Dr. Mortimer's leather notebook lies untouched, her hands folded tightly as if to anchor herself. Langston, his jovial mask shattered, runs a hand through his hair. His scuffed shoe still a silent reminder of the clues that led nowhere. The air is heavy, the weight of truth settling over the group like fog over the Thames. Poirot addresses Miss Grey directly, his tone measured but unrelenting. Mademoiselle, you have confessed to the murder of Sir Reginald Hawthorne, driven by the ruin he brought upon your father, Jonathan Gray. You stole the sedative from Dr. Mortimer's laboratory, lured Sir Reginald to the engine room, stabbed him with his own dagger, and escaped through the ventilation shaft. You sabotaged the train's brakes and poisoned Jenkins to delay discovery, and you burned the documents in the safe to erase your father's stolen legacy. Have I missed anything? Miss Grey's voice is barely a whisper, her eyes fixed on the table. No, Mr. Poirot, it's all true. My father was a brilliant chemist, but Sir Reginald stole his work, drove him to bankruptcy, and to his death. I was only a child, but I never forgot. When I became his secretary, I saw my chance. I planned every detail, the dagger, the sedative, the shaft. I wanted him to suffer as my father did. Her voice breaks and she buries her face in her hands. Lady Beatrice lets out a soft sob, while Edward mutters, "Father had enemies, but this..." Poirot nods, his expression a mix of sympathy and resolve. Your pain, mademoiselle, is real, but murder is no justice. The law will now take its course. He turns to Jenkins, who has recovered enough to stand guard at the dining car door. Monsieur Jenkins, you will ensure Mademoiselle Gray is secured until we reach London. The authorities must be informed. Jenkins, still pale from the sedative's effects, nods and gently escorts Miss Gray to a locked compartment, her steps slow and defeated. The remaining guests erupt in a flurry of questions. Lady Beatrice, wiping her tears, demands, "How could she do it right under our noses, that mousy girl?" Edward snarls, "She played us all using father's trust." Dr. Mortimer, her voice tight, says, "My sedative, stolen from my own lab. I should have been more careful." Langston, shaking his head, mutters, "She nearly brought down the whole bridge project. My investment..." Poirot raises a hand, silencing them. "Mesdames et messieurs, the crime is solved, but let us clarify the remaining threads, for the truth must be complete." Poirot begins to unravel the red herrings that clouded the investigation. "The red wax smudge," he says, pointing to Lady Beatrice's purse, "was planted by Mademoiselle Gray to cast suspicion on you, madame. Your sealing kit was convenient, but you were in the dining car at the time of the murder." Lady Beatrice gasps, her hand flying to her purse. "I knew I was innocent," Poirot continues. "The torn ticket in Monsieur Edward's pocket suggested flight, but it was a distraction. Your argument with your father was real, but you did not kill him." Edward exhales, his shoulders slumping. "The false footprint in the engine room," Poirot says, "was another of Mademoiselle Gray's tricks designed to confuse. The planted key in Monsieur Langston's coat was meant to implicate him, but his scuffed shoe was merely a coincidence from a stumble in the corridor." Langston nods, relieved. "Told you I was clumsy." Poirot turns to Dr. Mortimer. "The sedative vial stolen from your laboratory was used on Jenkins to delay the train's repair. Your notebook's formula confirmed its origin, but you were not involved." Dr. Mortimer's face softens, though her eyes remain haunted. Poirot holds up the coded letter mentioning the Society of the Crescent. "This was Mademoiselle Gray's masterpiece, a fiction to suggest a larger conspiracy masking her personal vendetta, The burned documents in the safe were your father's chemical formulas, mademoiselle, destroyed to hide your motive. He pauses, his gaze sweeping the group. The watch, stopped at 11:45, was broken in the struggle, confirming the true time of death. The midnight scream? A timed device hidden in the engine room to mislead us. Hastings, wide-eyed, whispers, "Good Lord, Poirot, she thought of everything." Poirot nods. "Oui, Hastings. But the little gray cells, they see through even the cleverest schemes." He turns to the guests. The crystal bridge, it was Sir Reginald's triumph, but also his downfall. His ambition bred enemies, and one took his life. Yet we must not let vengeance define us. As Jenkins returns, confirming Miss Grey is secured, Poirot oversees the repair of the train's brakes. With the help of Dr. Mortimer's expertise, the hydraulic line is fixed and the Crystal Star prepares to limp back to London. The guests, shaken but relieved, begin to process the truth. Lady Beatrice, her composure returning, murmurs, "I hated him sometimes, but I never wished this." Edward, staring at the Thames, says quietly, "I wanted his respect, not his empire." Dr. Mortimer, clutching her notebook, vows to protect her research. Langston, lighting a fresh cigar, mutters, "The bridge will survive this, it has to." Poirot, standing by the window, reflects on the case. "Justice, mes amis, is not vengeance. It is the restoration of order, the balance of right and wrong. Mademoiselle Grey will face the law, but her pain reminds us, hatred consumes more than its target." Hastings, ever practical, asks, "What now, Poirot? Back to London?" Poirot smiles faintly. "Oui, Hastings. But first we ensure the truth is known." As the train begins to move, the Crystal Bridge's dome glints in the dawn light, its beauty undimmed by the tragedy. The guests, forever changed, prepare to face a world without Sir Reginald. Poirot, his cane tapping softly, looks out at the Thames, his mind already turning to the next puzzle. Chapter 8. Reflections on the Bridge. The Crystal Star hums softly as it creeps off the Crystal Bridge, the glass dome above now reflecting the pale light of early dawn. The Thames below ripples with the first hues of morning, its waters a mirror to the turmoil that unfolded on this ill-fated journey. In the dining car, the opulence feels hollow. Chandeliers dimmed, the mahogany table littered with abandoned glasses and crumpled napkins. The four remaining guests, Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, Edward Hawthorne, Dr. Clara Mortimer, and Victor Langston, sit in scattered silence, their faces etched with the weight of the night's revelations. Miss Evelyn Grey, the confessed murderer, is secured in a locked compartment, guarded by the engineer Jenkins, who has recovered from his poisoning. Hercule Poirot stands by the window, his compact frame silhouetted against the fading stars, his mustache still as he gazes at the river. Captain Arthur Hastings, seated nearby, sighs heavily. "Poirot," he murmurs, "it's over, isn't it? Yet it doesn't feel like a victory." Poirot's eyes are distant but sharp. "Mon ami, justice is served, but the heart, it carries its own burdens. We must listen to its story." The guests, no longer suspects, but still bound by the tragedy, grapple with their emotions. Lady Beatrice, her emerald gown now creased beyond repair, stares at her reflection in a silver spoon, her pearl necklace dangling loosely. Her voice, usually sharp with theatrical flair, is soft. "I hated Reginald at times," she admits almost to herself. "He caged me, controlled every shilling, every moment, but to think, that girl, Evelyn, carried such pain all these years." She pauses, wiping a tear. "I should have seen it. I played so many roles, but never the one that mattered, his wife." Poirot, turning from the window, regards her with gentle scrutiny. "Madame, regret is a heavy companion, but it teaches us to see others more clearly. Did you ever suspect Mademoiselle Grey?" Lady Beatrice shakes her head. She was invisible to me, just a shadow in gray. Poirot nods, noting the irony. Miss Grey's quiet presence was her greatest weapon. Edward Hawthorne, slumped in a corner, runs a hand through his disheveled hair. His tailored suit, once a symbol of his ambition, now hangs loosely as if he shed the weight of his father's expectations. "Father was a tyrant," he says, his voice raw. "He called me a failure, said I'd never match his legacy. I wanted to prove him wrong, not see him dead." He glances at Poirot, his eyes haunted. "Mr. Poirot, did I push her to it? My arguments with father, did they give her the chance?" Poirot's expression is kind but firm. "Monsieur Edward, your father's choices sowed many seeds of discord, but Mademoiselle Grey's act was her own. You bear no guilt for her vengeance." Edward exhales, his shoulders sagging as if Poirot's words have lifted a fraction of his burden. Dr. Clara Mortimer, her severe black dress stark against the dining car's opulence, clutches her leather notebook, her fingers tracing its edges. Her voice is steady but tinged with remorse. "My work, my sedative, was used to hurt Jenkins, to cover her tracks. I should have locked my lab, been more vigilant." She looks at Poirot, her eyes searching. "Mr. Poirot, you saw my formula in my notebook. Did I enable this?" Poirot shakes his head. "Doctor, your science was but a tool, stolen by a determined hand. You sought to build, not destroy. Let this not dim your brilliance." Dr. Mortimer nods, her lips trembling, and opens her notebook as if to reclaim her purpose. Victor Langston, his pinstriped suit rumpled, lights a fresh cigar, its smoke curling toward the glass dome. His usual bravado is subdued, his scuffed shoe a reminder of the false clues that misled Poirot. "I put everything into this bridge," he says, his American accent heavy with exhaustion. "Reginald's death could have tanked it all. My fortune, my reputation. That girl nearly ruined me." He pauses, his eyes softening. But hearing her story, her father's ruin, it's hard to hate her. Poirot tilts his head. "Monsieur Langston, you see the human behind the crime. This is wisdom, no?" Langston shrugs, puffing his cigar. "Maybe, but I'm just glad the bridge is safe." Poirot moves to the center of the dining car, his cane tapping softly. "Mesdames et messieurs," he says, his voice warm yet commanding. "The Crystal Bridge was Sir Reginald's dream, but it became a stage for tragedy. Mademoiselle Grey's vengeance was born of pain, but it leaves us all to reflect. What do we carry in our hearts? What do we forgive?" The guests fall silent, their gazes inward, grappling with their own truths. Hastings, ever the loyal friend, leans toward Poirot. "You've done it again, old chap. But what about the bridge, those burned documents? Were they really about her father's formulas?" Poirot nods. "Oui, Hastings. The documents in the safe detailed Jonathan Grey's chemical work, stolen by Sir Reginald to build the bridge's sealants. Mademoiselle Grey burned them to erase her father's exploitation, but also to hide her motive. The Society of the Crescent was a fiction, a clever mask for her personal vendetta." Hastings shakes his head. "She thought of everything, didn't she?" Poirot's eyes gleam. "Almost, mon ami. But the little gray cells, they see what the heart conceals." As the train nears London, Poirot visits Miss Grey in her locked compartment, accompanied by Jenkins. She sits by a small window, her gray dress faded in the dawn light, her notebook discarded. Her face is calm now, the fire of vengeance extinguished. "Mr. Poirot," she says softly, "do you think my father would be proud?" Poirot's expression is compassionate. "Mademoiselle, your father would wish for your peace, not your pain. You sought justice, but found only sorrow." She nods, tears falling silently, and Poirot leaves her to her thoughts, knowing the law will soon take over. Back in the dining car, the guests prepare to disembark. Lady Beatrice adjusts her necklace, vowing to reclaim her independence. Edward speaks quietly of honoring his father's memory, not his tyranny. Dr. Mortimer sketches a new formula, determined to protect her work. Langston, cigar in hand, talks of salvaging the bridge's future. Poirot listens, his mind already turning to the broader implications of the case. He steps onto the train's observation platform, the crystal bridge receding behind them. The glass dome, once a symbol of triumph, now feels like a fragile shell. The human heart, Poirot muses to Hastings, it builds wonders like this bridge, but also breaks them. We must strive for balance, non? Hastings nods, his usual cheer returning. You're right, Poirot, but I'll be glad to be back on solid ground. Poirot smiles faintly. The ground, Hastings, is never as solid as we think. As the crystal star approaches Victoria Station, the dawn breaks fully, bathing London in golden light. The guests, changed by the night's events, brace for a new chapter. While Poirot's thoughts linger on the fragility of justice and the weight of human choices. Chapter 9. The Crystal Legacy. The crystal star glides steadily toward Victoria Station, the rhythmic clatter of its wheels a stark contrast to the chaos that unfolded on the Crystal Bridge. Dawn has fully broken over London, painting the city in hues of gold and rose, the Thames now a shimmering ribbon in the distance. In the dining car, the remnants of opulence, scattered napkins, dimmed chandeliers seem like relics of a bygone night. The four remaining guests, Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, Edward Hawthorne, Dr. Clara Mortimer, and Victor Langston, sit in quiet contemplation, their faces marked by the weight of Sir Reginald's death and Miss Evelyn Grey's confession. Miss Grey, secured in a locked compartment under Jenkins' watch, is a silent presence, her fate sealed but her story still resonating. Hercule Poirot stands near a window, his compact frame bathed in morning light, his mustache impeccable as he gazes at the approaching city. Captain Arthur Hastings, ever loyal, leans against the mahogany table, his voice low. Poirot, it's strange, isn't it? The case is solved, but it feels like something still unresolved. Poirot's eyes gleam. Mon ami, a crime leaves ripples like the Thames. Today we see what legacy remains. The guests, no longer bound by suspicion but united by shared loss, begin to speak of the future. Edward Hawthorne, his tailored suit still rumpled, stands and paces, his earlier anger replaced by a quiet determination. Father's bridge, he says, his voice steady, was his obsession, his monument. But it cost him everything, his life, his family, his honor. He turns to the group, his jaw set. I won't let it be his only legacy. I'll take over the Hawthorne Company, not to glorify him, but to make it something better, something that builds, not destroys. His words carry a new resolve, and Poirot nods approvingly. Monsieur Edward, to redeem a legacy is a noble pursuit, but tell me, how will you begin? Edward hesitates, then says, by ensuring the bridge is safe. Those burned documents, they hid flaws, didn't they? Poirot confirms. Oui, the documents Miss Grey destroyed detailed structural weaknesses, stolen from her father's work. You must rebuild trust, as well as the bridge. Edward nods, his eyes bright with purpose. Lady Beatrice, her emerald gown now covered with a shawl, sips a cup of tea, her hands steadier than before. Her theatrical poise has softened, replaced by a vulnerability she rarely shows. I was trapped in Reginald's world, she says, her voice low. His money, his rules, his shadow. But now... She pauses, meeting Poirot's gaze. I'm free, aren't I? Free to be Beatrice again, not just Lady Hawthorne. Poirot tilts his head. Madam, freedom is a gift, but it comes with responsibility. What will you do with it? She smiles faintly, a spark of her old charisma returning. I'll return to the stage, Mr. Poirot. Not for fame, but for me. And I'll sell my share of the company to Edward. It's his to carry now. Her decision draws a surprised glance from Edward, who nods, a silent pact forming between them. Dr. Clara Mortimer, her severe black dress a stark contrast to the morning light, opens her leather notebook, her fingers tracing a new chemical formula. "The bridge was my triumph too," she says, her voice firm but tinged with regret. "My sealants made it possible, but Reginald claimed the credit, cheated me out of my patent. I let bitterness blind me." She looks at Poirot, her eyes resolute. "I'll fight for my work now, legally, and I'll make sure no one else steals it." Poirot nods. "Doctor, your mind is a treasure. Protect it and let it shine." Dr. Mortimer's lips curve into a rare smile, and she begins sketching, her focus renewed. Victor Langston, his pinstriped suit less pristine but his cigar freshly lit, leans back in his chair, exhaling a cloud of smoke. "This bridge was my gamble," he says, his American accent gruff but thoughtful. "I poured millions into it, and Reginald's death nearly sank it. But Edward's right, it's worth saving." He glances at Edward, a grudging respect in his eyes. "I'll back you, kid. Let's fix the flaws. Make the bridge a symbol of progress, not tragedy." Poirot raises an eyebrow. "Monsieur Langston, your investment is safe, but what of your heart? Do you see the cost of ambition?" Langston puffs his cigar, then nods. "Yeah, I see it. Reginald's greed got him killed. I'll play smarter." Poirot moves to the center of the dining car, his cane tapping softly. "Mesdames et messieurs," he says, his voice warm yet commanding. "The Crystal Bridge was a vision of progress, but it became a mirror of human flaws, greed, betrayal, vengeance. Yet from this tragedy you choose renewal. This is the true legacy, no? To learn, to rebuild, to forgive." The guests nod, their faces reflecting a shared determination to move forward. Hastings, ever curious, asks, "Poirot, what about the bridge itself? Those flaws Edward mentioned, can it be saved?" Poirot gestures to Dr. Mortimer. "The good doctor's expertise, combined with Monsieur Edward's leadership, will ensure it. The burned documents revealed weaknesses in the glass sealants, but they can be corrected. The bridge will stand, a testament to human resilience." Dr. Mortimer nods, her pencil moving faster. "I've already begun calculations," she says. "We'll reinforce the structure, make it stronger than ever." Poirot's thoughts turn to Miss Grey, still locked in her compartment. He visits her once more, finding her gazing out the window, her gray dress faded in the morning light. "Mademoiselle," he says gently, "your father's legacy was not in those documents, but in you. Your pain led you astray, but you are not without hope." Miss Grey's eyes meet his, a flicker of gratitude in their depths. "Thank you, Mr. Poirot. I only wanted justice." Poirot nods. "Justice is yours to face, but peace is yours to seek." He leaves her, knowing the authorities await at Victoria Station. Back in the dining car, the guests prepare to disembark. Edward sketches plans for the Hawthorne Company, his resolve growing. Lady Beatrice speaks of a new play she'll star in, her voice lighter. Dr. Mortimer shares her formula with Edward, a gesture of trust. Langston, cigar in hand, drafts a telegram to his investors promising the bridge's future. Poirot watches, his heart warmed by their resilience. As the Crystal Star pulls into Victoria Station, the city bustles with morning life, newsboys shouting, cabs clattering, the air alive with possibility. The guests step onto the platform, each carrying a piece of the Crystal Bridge's legacy. Poirot, his cane at his side, lingers on the train, his gaze drifting to the horizon. "The bridge," he muses to Hastings, "it is more than glass and steel. It is a reminder. Ambition builds, but only understanding endures." Hastings smiles. You're getting philosophical, Poirot. Ready for the next case? Poirot's mustache twitches. Always, mon ami. Chapter 10. Poirot's Departure. The Crystal Star pulls into Victoria Station, its gleaming exterior dulled by the trials of the night, but the morning sun bathes London in a golden glow, as if to wash away the shadows of the Crystal Bridge. The platform bustles with life, newsboys hawking papers, porters bustling with luggage, and the hum of cabs mingling with the city's pulse. Inside the dining car, the remnants of the fateful journey linger. Scattered napkins, dimmed chandeliers, and the faint echo of tragedy. The four remaining guests, Lady Beatrice Hawthorne, Edward Hawthorne, Dr. Clara Mortimer, and Victor Langston, prepare to disembark, their faces reflecting a mix of relief and resolve. Miss Evelyn Gray, the confessed murderer, remains in a locked compartment guarded by the engineer Jenkins, awaiting the authorities. Hercule Poirot stands by the dining car's window, his compact frame poised, his mustache impeccably waxed despite the ordeal. Captain Arthur Hastings, ever his steadfast companion, adjusts his hat, his voice tinged with exhaustion. "Poirot," he says, "we've done it. The case is closed, the train is back. Yet it feels like something's still hanging in the air." Poirot's eyes gleam, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Mon ami, a case is never truly closed until the heart finds peace. Let us see them off, these souls touched by the bridge." The guests gather their belongings, each marked by the night's revelations. Lady Beatrice, her emerald gown now covered by a simple coat, adjusts her pearl necklace with a newfound lightness. She approaches Poirot, her theatrical poise softened by sincerity. "Mr. Poirot," she says, her voice warm, "you've given me a chance to start again. I'm returning to the stage, not as Lady Hawthorne, but as Beatrice, myself at last." Poirot bows slightly. "Madame, the stage awaits your radiance. Be true to your heart, and it will guide you." She smiles, a tear in her eye, and steps onto the platform where a friend from her theater days awaits, ready to help her reclaim her passion. Poirot watches her go, noting the spring in her step, a woman unburdened, ready to rewrite her story. Edward Hawthorne, his tailored suit still rumpled but his shoulders squared, carries a briefcase filled with plans for the Hawthorne Company. He pauses before Poirot, his earlier brooding replaced by a quiet strength. "Mr. Poirot, I hated Father's shadow, but I see now it's not about him. It's about what I can build. The Crystal Bridge will stand, flaws and all, because I'll make it right." Poirot nods approvingly. "Monsieur Edward, a legacy is not inherited, it is created. You have the courage to do so." Edward grips Poirot's hand briefly, a rare gesture of gratitude, then steps onto the platform, where a group of engineers awaits to discuss the bridge's repairs. Poirot sees a spark in Edward's eyes, a man stepping out of his father's shadow to forge his own path. Dr. Clara Mortimer, her severe black dress now softened by a scarf, clutches her leather notebook, its pages filled with new formulas. She approaches Poirot, her voice steady but warm. "My work was used for harm, Mr. Poirot, but you showed me it's still mine to protect. I'll patent my sealants properly this time, and I'll help Edward ensure the bridge is safe." Poirot's mustache twitches with approval. "Doctor, your mind is a beacon. Let it shine, and guard it well." Dr. Mortimer nods, a rare smile breaking through her austerity, and steps off the train, already sketching calculations as she joins Edward's group, her expertise a cornerstone of the bridge's future. Victor Langston, his pinstriped suit creased but his cigar freshly lit, exhales a cloud of smoke as he shakes Poirot's hand. "You saved my investment, Poirot," he says, his American accent gruff but grateful. "The bridge'll be a triumph yet, thanks to Edward and the dock. I'm doubling down. Smarter this time." Poirot tilts his head. Monsieur Langston, wealth is fleeting, but wisdom endures. You have learned this, non? Langston chuckles, puffing his cigar. Yeah, I'm learning. Thanks for the lesson. He steps onto the platform, already calling out to a business associate, his energy focused on securing the bridge's financial future. Poirot and Hastings make their way to Miss Grey's compartment, where Jenkins stands guard. The young woman sits by the window, her gray dress faded in the morning light, her face calm, but etched with sorrow. Mademoiselle, Poirot says gently, the authorities will take you now. Your father's pain drove you to this, but you must face the consequences. Miss Grey meets his gaze, her voice soft. I know, Mr. Poirot. I thought vengeance would free me, but it only chained me further. Thank you for seeing me. Poirot nods, his expression compassionate. The heart seeks justice, but only forgiveness brings peace. Seek it, mademoiselle. As Jenkins escorts her to the platform where two constables wait, Poirot watches her go, a tragic figure whose choices shattered lives, including her own. The platform is alive with activity, but Poirot lingers on the train, his cane tapping softly as he reflects. Hastings, adjusting his coat, asks, What now, Poirot? A well-earned rest? Poirot's eyes twinkle. Rest, Hastings? No. The world is full of puzzles, and Hercule Poirot is never idle. But first, a tisane, perhaps. Hastings laughs, his cheer returning. You and your tisane. Any hints about the next case? Poirot's smile is enigmatic. Let us say, mon ami, that London's shadows are never still. A letter awaits me speaking of a curious affair in a country manor. But that is for another day. As the guests disperse into the bustling station, Poirot steps onto the platform, his gaze sweeping over London's skyline. The Crystal Bridge, though out of sight, remains a vivid memory, a monument to ambition, betrayal, and redemption. The human spirit, he muses to Hastings, it builds wonders like the bridge, but also breaks them. Yet from the pieces we rebuild. This is life, no? Hastings nods, his practical mind anchoring Poirot's philosophy. You're right, Poirot. But I'll take a solid street over a glass bridge any day. Poirot chuckles, his cane gleaming in the sunlight. And I, Hastings, will take the truth wherever it leads. The station clock chimes, marking the start of a new day. Poirot adjusts his hat, his mind already turning to the next mystery, while the legacy of the Crystal Bridge lives on in those he leaves behind. Lady Beatrice's laughter echoes as she meets her theater friend. Edward's voice carries as he discusses engineering plans. Dr. Mortimer's pencil scratches with purpose, and Langston's cigar smoke curls skyward. Miss Grey, led away by the constables, casts a final glance at Poirot, a silent acknowledgement of the truth he uncovered. As Poirot and Hastings walk into the heart of London, the city hums with possibility, its secrets waiting to be unraveled. Poirot's mustache twitches, a sign that his little gray cells are already at work, ready for the next challenge.